About a year ago, I started the Unboxing Reptile series where people would send in their animals. You get to see my first impressions of the animals, and you would see the animals. And then they'd kind of just disappear off camera. They'd go into their newly set up enclosures, and I wouldn't really show them that much. So I thought I could give you kind of a recap, starting with episode 1, on what actually happened to the animals and my experience with having them. So we can jump on in with the very first animal that I unboxed. This one is coming from Virginia. And there's one animal in here, it's a snake. So I'm just gonna make sure I don't cut the snake, and I'm just gonna cut straight into the bag. So this ball python's super warm because the heat pack fell on it, which is okay. It feels like it's maybe 100 degrees right now, which is definitely higher than you'd want. At most, ideally it'll be like 95. This was a ball python, and as you can see, he had some really weird reactions to everything, kind of. He was just acting very bizarre from when I first took him out of the bag. It was very abnormal. I hadn't seen this before. The only thing it slightly resembled is it didn't really look anything like a neurological issue from a certain gene or morph. The closest thing it resembled was inclusion body disease, which is very deadly and very contagious, but I never really hear of it in ball pythons. So because I didn't know what it was, I immediately separated him, put him somewhere else, and just kept him away from all the other animals. And then after the video, I got that other clip of him on the floor, just wriggling around like crazy, and I realized that it actually was not a disease or an infection or anything. I talked to the person that sent him. He was perfectly fine before. Of course, people can lie and say that, oh yeah, he was fine, because people do that. But this case was different. They had pictures of him, they had a lot of info, and they had had him for a long time. And what I think actually caused this is some sort of brain damage, because the heat pack that he was boxed with actually fell on him. And the heat pack, I think it gets about 115 degrees on the surface, so that coming in direct contact with his head for even just a few hours could have actually caused damage. I think I mentioned this in a video, but I'm not sure. He did not survive very long after unboxing him. Ironically, the very first animal I unboxed in a video did not survive. He died so quickly there wasn't even time to like set up an appointment or anything, but I was really just like, okay, let's monitor him for a few days, see if he improves. He didn't eat or anything, which isn't too abnormal when they first come in, but yeah, he just died randomly shortly after. So this is the only time it's happened, but it was actually a really bad start with this ball python. And here we are. He's ready to go. This is a Russian tortoise. Next up was the Russian tortoise. He was quite the cutie. I'll admit, I don't 100% know which Russian tortoise this was, but I'm pretty certain it's the one that sold in August. So he actually took quite a while to sell, because I think the unboxing was in like November. Russian tortoises don't have huge demand with us. I think we also just had him for a while. I hadn't actually listed him for a bit. Gotta make sure he's healthy and normal and stuff, and they're so easy to have around that I don't mind them being here for a while. But he did eventually sell in August for $220. Then in September, because it was somebody that actually bought him locally, we were able to do a local pickup. Yeah, they just met us in between because they were like less than an hour away, and they got to pick him up. They actually thought that we had like a storefront, because they got to the address that we sent them and they were like, where's Emerald Scales? Where are you? It was actually just a Target address, because it's all done out of my house. So yeah, if we ever do local pickups, it's just gonna be a general parking lot or something. So don't get excited that you're gonna get to see some pet store. There isn't one. And I haven't really heard too much about him since, because a lot of people just don't update us. They'll ask us if they have questions, and they might send us an update picture. He had a really cool 4x2 foot handmade like wooden kind of turtle table, which are pretty common to do. And as long as you can get the right lighting and heating, and the humidity's fine in the room, this works just fine for Russian tortoises, and a couple have done that. He had a nice varied diet, and they completed everything that we ask from customers. So last I heard, he's doing well. This next one is coming actually from North Carolina. Let's see what... Oh, it's a bearded dragon. This is a female... I think it's a normal bearded dragon. Bearded dragons are an iffy one to sell, because a lot of people see them as this easy, beginner, simple animal that don't need too much, that can have a super small enclosure that you just throw some bugs to. But this person was actually extremely well prepared. They bought him on April 20th, 2020 for $140. Beardies don't usually go for as much. We do sell the adult beardies for what some people say is expensive, but it is kind of rare to find healthy adult bearded dragons, because so many people do not raise them properly. And those that do raise them properly normally keep them their entire lives, because basically all the other beardies either die as juveniles because they're cared for wrong, and then the last few are rehomed to people like us. He shipped to Kentucky, which is actually pretty close, just like 2 states I don't know where Kentucky is. 1 state over? 2 states over? Somewhere. Just a couple hours away, I think. And we actually had a ship day set up, but we had to cancel it because Kentucky's weather is just all over the place sometimes. There are certain states that I hate shipping to. Illinois is probably number 1. It's always so cold there. And then it'll be warm, and then immediately it just changes to freezing. So Kentucky is sometimes like that as well, but it is a bit easier. Especially in the spring, it wasn't too difficult to find today. But yeah, this one was shipped the day after. Again, this is one I haven't heard from the person since sending off and saying that he arrived safe and sound. And most of the time, that means that all went well. Okay, so next up, this is one from someone named Jackie, who actually does not rehome animals to us, but rehomes animals for us. We've got the animal here, which we'll look at in a sec. You might not be surprised why I took this leopard gecko of all, because it's beautiful. The next one that was sent in was actually requested by me to be sent to us. At the time, I had a couple other people taking in animals where if we were at max capacity, which is basically just too many for us to comfortably care for, we'd start redirecting shipments to other locations, and this leopard gecko went to one of those. When they sent pictures to us to list on Emerald Scales, because then they would basically ship it from their location once it's sold on Emerald Scales, they sent pictures for me to list on, and I actually thought that she was a really pretty gecko with a pretty cool looking morph. And this was when we wanted to do some breeding projects. So I actually had her send it down to us. I just paid the shipping, and we're like, yeah, we'll breed her with some of the others because we have some really cool male leopard geckos here. We literally just haven't done it yet. It did not become a priority. After getting her shipped down, so many more projects and things came up that the time to actually invest into breeding the geckos just was non-existent. So she's still just chilling with us, doing just fine. At this point, I don't even really want to breed because I didn't realize after this how many more animals would have to be rehomed, so not a priority. But for now, she'll just hang with us. So this is a species that we actually don't take in. It's a Redeared, no, what is it? Yes, a Redeared Slider. 8/4. This is a big turtle. Next up was a female Redeared Slider. She was actually free to basically buy because we can't charge for Redeared Sliders. They're invasive in North Carolina, and North Carolina just doesn't want to encourage people to sell them because it increases the likelihood of more being released. At least that's what they say and think. I don't think that it affects anything at all. You can easily find Redeared Sliders for sale all over the state. It's illegal, but it's really not enforced at all. But I generally try to, I shouldn't say generally, but I try to follow the law the best I can. And there are tons of reptile regulations, and we do adhere to them, as I'm pretty sure 100%. So yeah, basically she just gets listed and then the person pays shipping, but the people sending them in pay a little bit so that it's not a complete loss on our part. Her name was Cece. She was raised as a baby by somebody living in Manhattan, New York, and he had trouble keeping her in his apartment because although the apartment was, I assume, okay with it, or he just didn't tell them or something, he was trying to start a human family, and the amount of space and time that she took up just wasn't doable. So he had a lot of trouble kind of sending her to us. Originally, she was actually going to go to the Dominican Republic because he had a family member that lived there willing to take her, but he said that he couldn't, again, due to more regulations. International shipping is very difficult with living things, so understandable. And so he decided to send her to us. So she's one of the cases where people either A, think that because she's free, we won't care where she's going, or because she's free, the care doesn't matter as much. I guess that's the logic some people follow. So originally she sold in February on the 13th to somebody in Michigan, and they also bought a rainbow boa. They had this really gross 55-gallon enclosure. She was big. You saw how large she was. She needed at least like 100 plus gallons, and a 55, even if it did look good, wasn't gonna cut it. But it was just this grungy looking thing. It wasn't great. The boa setup wasn't great either, so we ended up canceling this order and just declining. They were kind of upset, but I mean, I'm used to it at this point. So she was relisted on the site, and then she sold February 22nd, just a few days later, to somebody in Massachusetts. This person literally just said, how much space does she need? I just bought her, and I told them how much space, and they were like, okay, just refund me, I can't do that. And so she was listed on the site once again. The third time she sold was a month later, March 30th, to somebody in Georgia, and they just never replied. You place an order, you get a confirmation, we then say, complete your Emerald Scales order. When you get that, you send a picture of the enclosure and the diet and info. They never responded. So after 2 weeks, it just auto-canceled. And she was listed again. finally, April 16th, this person actually bought 3 turtles, and they lived in North Carolina, just a few hours away. In addition to the 3 aquatic sliders, they also bought a snapping turtle. They had separate setups for everything, and everything was actually up to par. She got a little over 100-gallon tub set up in their backyard, which, as long as it's properly set up, North Carolina perfectly works for outdoor slider setups, so that was good to see, and they were actually good to go. Even though they were in NC, we shipped because it was a bit too far. It's still overnight shipping, and everything arrived safe and sound. And finally, this really big, the biggest actually Redeared slider I've seen in person, found a home after 4 tries. The last box we have is coming from California, and oh god, it's a little bigger than I expected. This is an Asian water monitor. The next animal, the monitor, I think it's an Asian, was it an Asian water monitor? I think. I don't know monitors crazy well, other than Savannah monitors. This is probably the most well-known animal from the unboxings, but of course it's the one that I can't find the order to. Some orders, after a while, they just get archived and I have to dig them up, and I usually try to save them all, but I literally just can't find this order. So I don't remember specifically who or where it went to. The thing about monitors is most of them are very specific animals with very little demand for them. Like, not many people actually want Asian water monitors. However, those that do are really on top of things, and they usually sell quite quickly. Yeah, usually these people are pretty well prepared, and it's rare that we have to cancel or decline people because they really do know what they're getting into. If you go to, say, a pet store and you see someone buying one, it's gonna be this little tiny cute baby lizard that they're just gonna pick up for cheap. But when they go on emerald scales and they see it's bigger, not necessarily an adult, but like sub-adult, yeah, they're normally more prepared. So luckily, there's few issues there. We've taken in 3 red Tegus, along with an Argentine black and white Tegu, which we have right now. Hello. It's a friendly one. Look at that. And then finally, the last animal in this video was a red Tegu, a very sweet one. I definitely like red Tegus. Not something I'm looking for myself, but they're very personable. A lot of people say they're dog-like. I don't really like dogs though, so I kind of disagree because I like them more than dogs at least. And she sold for $500 to somebody in Georgia. It was an 8x4 foot enclosure. I think it was like a whole part of a room. Like, they kind of converted part of one of their bedrooms into a Tegu enclosure. Some people literally just want to free roam the animals, which I don't accept. But this one, they actually had a floor down with substrate, and the humidity was regulated, and they were careful. If you were to, like, even in this room, say, if I put something all over the floor and put dirt in it and just sprayed it with water, the humidity in the house, normally houses, you don't want to go over 50% humidity because it can cause mold and other issues. It can be finicky, but if you do it right, you can dedicate large parts of rooms to animals, and that's what this person did with the red Tegu. I'm always very careful with these. You really need someone that's going to dedicate tons of time to, and normally I like selling the Tegus to people that don't have too many animals because you want them to be able to dedicate a lot of time. We don't really normally ask, like, what else do you have, but if they were willing to dedicate a whole, like, half a bedroom to this one animal, that's a good sign, and I was very comfortable with them. So that's the first 7 animals that I ever unboxed in a video, and all their updates. Although the very first one died, the other 6, I'm very happy with who they went to. Some obviously took a little while to sell, others went almost immediately as soon as they were posted on the site, and the very first person was prepared. All these experiences since then, because this is almost a year ago basically, they have helped us improve a lot and figure out how to make the site easier and how to more quickly and efficiently verify people. So it's been a great learning step, and it's only improved from here, but it's a good start. If you enjoyed this video, I'd be happy to give you updates on the other animals in the other unboxing videos, so just let me know in the comments what you thought. Not to mention, it helps the YouTube algorithm. That'll be it for this video. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.